Okay, everybody got their water and we're ready to go here. Okay, my name's Steve Sherman. I am not a solar expert. I don't do it as a profession. I'm just a retired telephone guy. Like soon to be Makeda here. But I have worked with it a lot, so I was the logical person to give a talk. As you can see, the solar panels here, I have a 4K solar system that's grid tie, no batteries involved. And it cuts our power bill down by about $80 a month. How much it cuts your power bill down depends on how big your power bill is to start with. And the weather. These little clouds really, actually, when they get in front of the sun, hurt the production of the solar panels. So, it's a hard thing to say as to how big you should build it and what you should do. I started with putting solar panels on my tent trailer, which now I have even more on my travel trailer down there. And anybody that wants to go in the travel trailer and see the control box on the wall, that's fine. It's open. I also have an electric golf cart here that has solar panels on it, and I haven't had to charge it for a year because the solar panels produce enough power. So long as I take it out of the barn once in a while. The basics that we want to talk about, I'm assuming, how many people know very much about solar energy? 2, 3, so 4 of you. So basically, a solar panel takes sunlight and converts it to energy. Solar panels are of many different sizes, shapes, and voltages and wattages. The amperage on a panel in basic electricity is the amount of power, and voltage is the volts that it creates. And you have to get everything to match. You have to have the voltage the same. Well, let's start with a system. You have a solar panel, a control panel, and sometimes they're built into the inverters. Inverter, if you want to take it to a different voltage, and then your source. What you want to use it for, be it charge a battery or run something. About the only thing that's really good for running during the day usually are well pumps, because they work during daylight hours. Most of what we use electricity for, usually use at night, and so you have to have some type of storage for that power, and that's usually batteries. If a grid tie system creates power during the day, hopefully more than you're using during the day, and some power companies, Sierra Pacific, Nevada Power, doesn't buy power from you. If you create too much, they do not buy it from you. You will never get a dime out of them. What they do though is they credit you the amount of hours, or watts actually, that you give them, so that you can use that up at night when you don't create any energy. And so a grid tie system, that's how it works. You create energy, hopefully more than you use during the day, and then at night when you're using even more power, you get to credit it back for that wattage that you gave them earlier in the day. My power bill, because I'm a high energy user, I hardly ever have less than 4 computers going at the same time, and a couple of them go all night long. Was running anywhere from $80 to $150 a month, and we've cut it down where it hardly ever gets above $50 a month. My wife and I took a vacation last month, took 2 weeks in Italy, and our power bill for that month, with a couple computers running the whole time we were gone, was still $9. So, but that was, we weren't here half of the month. So, I usually have in the summertime $20, $30 a month power bills, where they were close to $100 a month.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just as far as Nevada Power goes, Is there a base monthly fee to stay connected to the grid?
Yeah, there's charges on your bill. Look on your power bill.
Yeah, standard rate.
And they're getting charged more and more things. That's how they get around from not raising the cost of energy. It's still 11 cents a kilowatt hour by having other charges on there that whether you have to pay them outright. Some of them are cheaper because they're based on the amount of power you use, but there's a basic fee, and I don't know how much it is. It's like $5 or $6, I think, every month.
Well, you mentioned $9 was your power bill. Did that include the monthly
That was my power bill.
rate for you?
It was less than $10, yeah. It was. Yes.
Steve, how long did it take for the system to pay itself off?
It will be paid off in 18 and a half years.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it sounded good. That was my next statement, was that if you're trying to have cheap power, you're not going to get it. Does everybody have one of these books? If you turn towards the back to this page, okay, this is actually how much energy my power system has put off since I got it. This is the day I started producing energy, and every day that I produced energy, this is how much energy I produced, and all the way through the month of July of this year. And there's my costs all over here on this corner. This diagram here is a diagram of my system. It's actually, except for the heavy black, is what I turned in for the building permit. So I have two different panels because I actually bought them at two different times. Let's see if we can.
I was just going to slightly center.
So I did take the IRS tax credit.
What's your elevation here? And you can have
Elevation's 5,125 feet. This is all the stuff that had to be turned into the building department to get a permit to put those up. And I bought a kit by a company that was installing them, but they'd also just sell me the equipment. I installed it all myself with help from a couple friends. And this is up here to look at it. Anyone that wants to look and see what had to be turned in with it had to have a drawing that shows the system and all the different parts. Where was it? There's basically the system right there. So, yeah, it's not an easy thing. It was actually a little more than I thought.
Steve, do you remember what the county charged you for the permit fees and such to start this project? Roughly?
No, it's got to be around $100 or so.
$100, okay.
I have the permit inside. I should have brought it out. So
That's all right.
we can grab it and look at it. I'm sure it says how much. And then I found out later I originally was gonna do, this is why there's two different models of solar panels. I was gonna do a 2K system and have a 4K inverter put on it so I could expand it to 4K. Because everything has to match. You have to match voltages, panels, controllers. They all have to work on the same voltage and be compatible with one another. And if you get mixed match panels, they work at the least efficient panel speed. So I have some 190 watt panels and some 200 watt panels. So my 200 watt panels are operating at the 190 watt speed because they're tied together. That's just how solar panels do. They operate at the characteristic of the lowest panel that you have in series or parallel. So you need to keep them. I bought them at 2 different times, and the 190s weren't available, so I had to go to 200s to do it. And I did that because I was, after talking to inspectors, they said, if you're going to expand this to 4, you're better off doing it now. It's a lot cheaper. It's $10 to change your permit instead of another 100 something down the road to add the panels. So you want to go. We had enough money to buy and pay cash for the 2K system, so I just borrowed some money to do the 4K system, and we paid that off. Yes?
Your system's about 3 years old. What's the hardware cost done in that time period? Like, is it a lot less now than it was then?
I don't think so. I really haven't paid attention, so...
You know what you pay for your panel? Just
Panels aren't that much cheaper unless you get Chinese panels, and I say don't buy Chinese panels.
Some U.S. say maybe like 80 cents a panel. 80 cents a watt.
There are deals out there. I'm sure they're worth it. If you get, I buy U.S. or Canada panels when I can. Unfortunately, my favorite company, like the one that's on the ground over there, you can't see it, but it's running the demonstration over there. It's just laying on the ground. I brought it up. It's one of my spare panels. It's made by Evergreen, which no longer is in business. Yeah, I really like their panels. That's what's on the travel trailer down there, are 3 100 watt Evergreen panels. And there's 22 panels on this 4K system. And then if you look down there, there's 2 others that look like different panels. And they are. Those are the ones that look different are the Evergreen. The main system is BP panels. And the Evergreens to there actually go to a battery system. It's totally off the grid. So they're not part of the grid tie, they're just on the same framework. So if the panels look different, that's because they're to a battery system. I have a whole computer that's on the battery system. My weather station here is on the battery system totally, so when the power goes out, it still works. The main system is 4 kilowatts per hour. When they give you ratings on solar panels, and they tell you it's a 200 watt panel, which is what's on the ground over there. That's 200 watts per hour of sunlight, of good sunlight, optimal conditions.
So when you produce 600, let's call it 600,000 watts, what, 30 days? Just divide the days by the amount of days per day.
Actually, if you look at the bottom, and it actually shows you that for the month in both watts and kilowatts.
Yeah, I see your totals there. So you come up with the amount you produce a day, 688 kilowatts.
So I believe the day readings are in watts, but the monthly reading down at the bottom here is in both watts and kilowatts. And then also how much it saved me that month in power costs.
Do these have a lifespan, the panels? Or do they just last forever?
The warranty on them, on most of them, is 25 years. Some are 20, some are 30. But if nothing happens to them, there's no reason they shouldn't go on. A lot of them have.
They don't
They just keep running. Missing a screw. I also, yes?
Question, just don't know who asked your question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Real quick, so as a prepper, what is the benefit to a grid type system per se? Is there one or?
There, yes and no. Okay. You've got solar panels. It depends on what shit hits the fan. If it's a financial problem, then yeah. But on a grid tie system, that's what I was going to mention. Thank you. Because of the nature of the grid, if the grid goes down, so we're going to pretend down at the corner down here, a car took out a power pole. It's gone. Power's gone. So the power company guy comes and climbs the pole, and the hot lead, or what should be the hot lead, is laying in the dirt. So he goes up and he grabs a hold of the wire going to my house. If there wasn't safety devices set in the system, he'd get electrocuted. Therefore, the controller, the inverter, which is underneath my panels back there, when it times itself to the power company's power, both in frequency and voltage, so it matches it. When there's no power there, it quits working. So I can have all this sun like right now and have no power if my house has no power. So as a prepper, and a retired phone guy who used to climb telephone poles, I understand the dangers. I've been well trained in those. So I created a system here, and this is actually from my wife, which I don't think she can find, on how to go and turn off the main breakers in my house. And then I have an inverter, which is this one here, which is 12 volt to 240. And I plug this into the batteries that are in my office that are on my 12 volt system, and an extension cord here that's hanging right here that'll plug in the other side of this wall, which is where my arc welder goes, and plug into this, and then I can send 240 volts into my system with the mains open and fool the panels into thinking, oh, I'm hooked up to the system again. I'm all right. Hey, and it'll create power. Someone asked me when I did that, says, well, how much will that little inverter carry? How much would be low to your house? I says, it doesn't matter. It ain't carrying anything. All it's doing is fooling the system so it produces power. So if we had a long power outage, I can actually, because the way I've manipulated the system, actually keep my refrigerator and freezer running during the day. So then I have access to the refrigerator and freezer when there's sunlight outside. After the sun goes down, she can't open until the morning. And stuff will stay cold that way. So you just have to learn to work with what you have to make it be used in a prepper sense. If it's an EMP from the sun, probably the controller and everything's toast, because that's going to blow out the electrical grid. Actually, any EMP from an atomic bomb or the sun will probably blow it. Some of it may get, hopefully the panels will not. And I have spare units that I can piecemeal some of the panels off and use separately for power, and individual with inverters. So it just depends on how you want to do it. You know, you decide what you're going to get, what you think your prepper use of it's going to be, as well as your regular use. So it's hard to say, but it can't hurt. Yes.
So, as a non-technical person,
well, I'm
just coming at it from my perspective.
Oh.
As a non-technical person, if I'm trying to come up with a particular type of panel that I want to purchase, or a particular usage of the panel that I want to purchase, what are some of the key factors in looking for a system? So say I want to be able to charge my iPad so that I can access. It was a great idea about putting manuals on like a Nook or something like that, and I want to be able to charge that. So, what are some of the things that I need to look for in a system so that I can access my iPhone, I can access my Nook, I can do like the personal electronics, not necessarily an entire house, but say things like I want to charge a rechargeable light for a camp. So, what are some of the things I need to look for?
Really?
Get the Gold Zero system. We use that camping, and it charges up your iPhone. It'll charge up your anything. It's small. It's about it comes with you get rechargeable batteries. You can actually recharge your stuff off the rechargeable batteries, or you can hook it directly to the Gold Zero panel. Costco has a whole kit, $99, and that will. When I go camping, that's in my bug out bag. It's small.
Even with Gold Zero, I've been disappointed in Gold Zero in that you've got to get the things that they want to match because they have proprietary connectors, and everything doesn't connect to everything. This awning, this blue awning here, the table under it is all Gold Zero, and the box there has got more stuff in it. But I've got a Serpa 50, Serpa 120, which doesn't hold the charge very long. I'm disappointed in. I've got a lantern that charges off solar panels. I've got 3 or 4 different types of solar panels over there. Most of them will chain, so you can chain more if you want. I have, in fact, we mentioned that I have a small unit that I need to go get and bring out that I took to Italy with me to charge my cell phone, and it has 2 solar panels. One's a secondary, so you have to buy separate, but I can actually put it in the bus while we're driving and charge the unit up, and then when my cell phone got low, I charged it from that.
You're Adam, correct? Todd. Oh, never mind. Sorry. Trying to remember who was Adam.
I know. I'll know when I see it.
I do remember that you gave an excellent lecture on first aid, and actually I used
Nomad Gold Zero.
your little glucose.
Hey, stop.
They said that takes pretty
And then there's like 200 watt. So this is an Optima, and 200 watt panel is running it.
Like yours, Vic?
Yeah, these are my inverters from the truck. We forgot to get one. I'm actually running my chicken coop off one of these right now.
Okay.
I'm running my chicken coop. I have an automatic door
Automatic door?
and lights and stuff in it for my chicken coop.
Oh, I
So
see.
it opens when the sun comes on and it closes when the sun goes down.
A door. Why would you?
The coop door that goes out into the chicken run.
Oh,
So
I
they
saw.
come back in the coop at night,
Gotcha.
and then later on, my door automatically closes.
You're not afraid of hawks and predators?
I've got the top net
Okay.
out in the run. So this is running. That's a 200 watt panel running an Optima, and we've got a 200 watt Sunforce rectifier or inverter coming off of
So
that.
that's 200 watts there?
Yeah, it looks like it. It says 210 on it, but it's probably 85-90% efficient.
Because I've been looking at that. There's Harbor Freight has one. It's got like the 3 panels like you have. 50, 50, 50.
Yep, yeah. That's the panel I got on the coop because it's the
okay.
only panel I have right now. So.
Gotcha.
So this is the charge controller for, it looks like it's putting out 13.2 volts. It's charging and it looks like 0.6 watts. Can't be right, I may be reading that wrong.
If I get a panel, say I inherit a panel, and I want to be able to use it to charge something, I need to make sure that that panel is then converted with an inverter or converter.
Yeah, it depends what you're charging. Any solar panels should have some kind of regulator. Okay, I have a couple right here. It's a 200 watt, 12 volt controller. You run the panel into here, and you run the output to a battery or whatever you want to do.
So that changes the power that comes off of the solar panel to something that's a battery?
No, it doesn't. This doesn't change the voltage.
Okay.
What this does is it senses what you're charging.
Okay.
And it shorts out the panel when what you're charging is full.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Because you can ruin batteries by overcharging them.
Oh, okay.
So you need a controller that controls the solar energy. Okay, this is another type that's less wattage, but this wire here is to tape it to your battery, so this adjusts to the temperature of your battery. Because batteries, when they're hot and when they're cold, they charge differently, and the ratings change. And this is a similar one that's just a larger wattage. And there's all different kinds. This is my mistake.
All right.
Even I do that. I don't really, I've had this for a long time. And it took me a while before I figured out why it wasn't working properly.
Why is it not working properly?
Because everything I have is 12 volt. This is a 24 volt panel.
So matching voltages is important.
Yes.
Okay.
That's very important. Now, I can get a regular like this that has a 24 volt input and a 12 volt output.
And that's a converter, right?
Yes. In fact, the golf cart, the top is 235 watt 12 volt panels.
Okay.
And I have a converter box down with the batteries because it's a 36 volt system.
Okay.
That takes the 12 volts and charges 36 volt batteries. And the converter I have actually is made for golf carts.
Okay, cool.
I found. So you got to know what you're doing, what you've got, what you want to charge, and what's the best way to get it by. You've got to read all the literature.
Okay. Like you're talking about your home Power NNP, and that's where you're talking about where a repair person could hurt themselves and it shuts itself off.
It actually is wired. My meter box.
Right.
It's actually wired to a 240 volt circuit breaker.
And then you have a way of disengaging that so that you can run your house off of your panels.
You just take the main on-off switch in your panel and you open it. You turn it off. That opens up the circuit to the power, to the grid, to the telephone pole basically.
Right.
And then I can run the panels off of this feed right here.
So that you're not in danger of having the power go out, it's just staying within your own system.
Right.
Okay.
But you also don't know when the power's back on unless you see the lights.
See the lights. Okay.
So during the day you can't really tell. And that's really critical. If you're gonna mess with this, you gotta be sure you're disconnected because you'll kill somebody if you don't.
What I need to take into account if I'm trying to do a solar system myself is what I'm trying to run and make sure that whatever the output of my solar panels will be will match whatever I'm trying to generate.
You need to know that they're all the same voltage or you're converting voltages. You know what voltages are where.
Usage is going to be.
And you need to know how much watts you're starting with the solar panel. And what the end product that you're trying to operate, how much watts it needs.
Now, is there any problem with consistent power, such as, like, say, my solar panel puts out a certain amount, but it's not, and it happens to be a cloudy day, so I get a lot of sun and then none, a lot of sun and then none. So, is there a way, or is there a piece of machinery that stores a certain amount of power and keeps that power even, so that I have consistent power for like?
That's called a battery.
Battery. Okay. So you're actually charging the battery and running whatever your material is off the battery.
Off the battery.
Okay.
And
We actually have that demonstration running over there. So a power or a panel charging up a battery through an inverter, and then we run off that battery to a converter so you can run AC.
Okay.
So the battery will keep it constant, but the panel goes up and down.
Right.
But it's constantly producing a charge to the battery until the inverter shuts it off.
Okay. And then it
Because
comes
the
back
battery's
on whenever it
charged.
needs a little bit more. So like a generator trying to work what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Works pretty good.
Before I forget, Steve, the device you're talking about, the bypass, so you can run strictly off your grid, off your solar panels. One of my neighbors in Los Angeles, he spoke with the people that installed the system in his house, and he actually got the kid to come after hours by himself. And he says there's a box that he can install that he can turn it off and just run strictly off of his solar panels, and the DWP won't even know about it, basically. So
Yeah.
it's $300 devices. The kid said you can install it, and it'll do exactly what you said. It'll fool the box to thinking it still has the power grid coming from the city, and they'll just produce power for you that way.
Yeah, but so I can't see any reason to do that.
No, I know you're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
because I'm banking power for the night with the power company right now. They won't buy any power from me, but they'll credit me for it all.
I think they do credit. I don't know how it works.
California, you can actually get money from them. California, you can do that, but not Nevada Power. So
You haven't overproduced at any time anyway because your bill's still at
I overproduce during the day. I just use it back at night.
Yeah. Of course, the whole month.
And that's what you want to do if you're doing a grid tie system. You want to try and get it so that it pretty much is the same size of how much power you use. A little larger won't hurt much because you'll. I'm not sure how long they leave the credits on your system. I never checked into that because I wasn't building a big enough system to compensate for that. You know, but I'm assuming they at least leave the credits there for a year so that in the wintertime you can take care of the extra you made in the summertime. But my bills are never that big. I don't really worry about it. And it was all I could afford at the time, so that's what I got. Yeah, I wouldn't mind having a little bit more, but then I'd be having to figure out how to pay for that. Yes.
If you do take the tax credit, does that mean you have to reach it?
That's what I was going to talk about next. There's two different tax credits you can get if you do a grid tie system. One is, and it may be going away as far as I know, one is the federal system. Okay, and that one there's no requirements on. The other one you can get money from is from Nevada Power. They have a fund, and as long as there's money in that fund, and it runs out every year, you can get money from them. But the problem is the green credits that you can generate, which don't do you any good in Nevada right now, but eventually it will, they own those if they give you money for them. And it's my belief, and I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think I can move the system to some other place because they own part of it and it's tied to this household. So I'm pretty sure I have to sell it with the house. For those reasons, I did not take the Sierra Pacific Power money, which would have been $1,000 or so.
Oh, so you didn't take their...
I didn't take their money because... Yeah.
Okay.
So it is all mine. I did... see, I have 80 acres in Paradise Valley, north of Winnemucca, and I had planned on building a house out there at the time and wanted to be able to move the panels. And therefore I have the option when we sell the house to say, okay, it's this much or it's this much with the panels. Because I'd sell them to them, but they're going to pay extra for the panels. So, oh, that's that little dog.
I got one question.
Yes.
Since this thing's affixed to the ground over here and everything, are you paying property taxes on that?
No,
Are they exempt or something?
they're exempt.
They are exempt.
But it really doesn't matter a whole lot because during this lovely time we just went through, my house value got halved and my property taxes took off $5.
It just kept them up from falling, right?
I guess. I don't understand. So anyway, this first picture here is the property I have out in Paradise Valley. And it's six smaller solar panels here, and that actually is the setup that runs the well out there. There is no power to the property. And then these two panels that Mr. McKibbett there helped me install run a weather system and a laptop that I installed out there, that I have out there. So I have those panels too that I've been playing with. This is what my backyard looked like before we started building, and then the different stages of building. And this is the maintenance I have to do to it. Taking the snow off of it, yes. I was so glad I didn't put them on a roof, and my roof actually faced the correct direction. But I had a tile roof and I didn't want to fool with it. So that's one thing to think of. Solar panels get hot. They generate heat when they work. And when you put them that close to your roof, they can get warm, and you got to make sure air gets through under them. On the ground, they don't have that problem. Conversely, on the ground, they're more likely to get hit by someone when they're a klutz and they turn around with a big board on their arm and whack it into them. Actually, I haven't done that yet, but I've done other dumb things, so. I paid an extra $700 when I had my system put in, and I bought a card that goes in the inverter under the panels and another unit in my computer, and I actually get readouts and can get readouts. So I know how much I'm producing at that moment, how much I produced all day, all week, all day, all year in total since the system went in. Now, there's lots of loss in a system, any system electrically. And so how much I produce is not how much the power company gets. It's not how much gets to my computer, as far as there's a certain amount of loss in the wiring in the unit, in the wiring going to the house. So things don't seem to match up real well. Yes.
What kind of, out of the panels, you got a 190 watt panel, what kind of efficiency do you get on this?
I'm really not sure. You know,
What if you have 85% or 90%?
I'm happy when I have clear days of getting 25 kilowatts a day. But I'm happy with 20 kilowatts a day. As long as I'm between 20 and 25, that's fine. But you don't get standard power. It's really a hard thing to judge. If you go to this page again, does anyone not have this? One of these? One of the book binders? I know the late people come in. I want to be sure everybody got one. From the inverter that's under the power panel, it goes to my own meter. It's a meter that's part of my system. And it tells me how much I've produced, minus the loss from here to here, which can be a lot or a little. Then I have a cutoff switch, and it goes to the circuit breaker, then to the power company's meter, and to there. Now, if you want to go to the back of all the numbers, we'll make the numbers mean something. This is an actual diagram for a day. It happens to be July 31st of this year. And so this is the start of the morning and just goes through the whole cycle. That was a really good day. And this little divot in the very top up there, anyone got a guess as to what that is? Cloud. That's what it is. The cloud in front of the sun. If the cloud's in the sky, it's not going to affect anything until it gets in front of the sun. And the next page, there's a lot of clouds in front of the sun at different times. And the date is, this was July 15th. And then the third page was a bad day at Black Rock.
Is there any difference summer to winter as far as
There is, and that brought up something else I should discuss. because I have a set standard no movement to it, which I don't like movement, that causes wear, and that means maintenance, and I don't like maintenance. So my system cannot move.
Right.
So the way you put it in is you put it at the latitude that you're at. We're at 39 degrees. So my system is between 39 and 40 degrees angle. And that makes it the best for spring and fall. And it makes it better for winter than if I had it in a flatter angle. You want to be facing directly at the sun. So actually in the height of summer, when we have the least amount of clouds, I'm getting less than optimal amount.
Because you set it up to be more efficient in the winter.
I set it for more year-round efficiency. So and that is, now you can get units that will tilt up at the bottom and you can go out and adjust it 4 times a year. You can get some systems that, I had a friend who lived, out somewhere by Battle Mountain, a little farther from Battle Mountain. And he had a system on a pole mount, which these two systems are on pole mounts. They're not adjustable pole mounts, but they're pole mounts. But they make a system that uses fluid that'll actually make your pole mount track the sun each day and go back at night. Wasn't supposed to be windy today.
So this is the answer. Don't do solar, do wind.
No, that's not the answer. I happen to just, wind is too mechanical.
Yeah.
And it,
only good 1-2 days.
Yeah. So he had these pole mounted arrays and they actually tracked the sun. Well, I looked into them, and for what the mechanical movement cost, and he said he didn't have trouble with it, I could buy more panels for the same price. And I felt I was better off.
Yeah, and with our wind, it really beats the mechanical movement aspect of it, so you have to start thinking about that. Because it does move, that wind will buffet that all the time and do a lot of damage to it.
He never had a problem.
Okay.
And he lived out in the middle of a very plain, open area. Biwawi, I think it is, where he lived.
Yeah.
He had a good system. He loved his.
Okay.
Never had problems.
I was out at a company out toward out of town, and the company had solar panels, and they had them on the trackers. And when I talk about they had solar panels, they had I think about 3,000 solar panels, and they were all on trackers. And we had a bad winter storm, and the snow load on the trackers that snapped most of these supports, so they had to take down the entire field and rebuild it and put it on a permanent fixed foundation for the solar panels, because it was too expensive to replace the trackers. So the snow load was something else that you have to keep in mind when we have bad storms.
Yeah, I decided to do that, and I decided to put it on the ground because I wanted to clean the snow off. Because I've watched snow stay on my roof all day long in the wintertime sometimes. And if there's snow covering it, you are creating zero. Better that I put my snowsuit on and go play. Yes.
So I have, this is kind of a different subject, but there are different kinds of materials that they use for solar panels, and did you think about those when you decided to buy them, or was there only one kind?
There's different kinds, but when you
Film and there's
it talks about. I'm really not up on the three different kinds that much. Although I have a film type on the back of the golf cart, which is not being used right now, but you're welcome to stand up and look at it. It's going to charge a battery under the back seat that's going to run lights. I haven't got the light yet. But I got the solar panel for it because I already had it and decided that was what I was going to do with it. So yeah, there are different kinds. They have good and bad parts. You're going to find mostly one type when you go to a large distance. So you just got to make up that decision. I don't pay that much attention. They all usually pretty much work. Yeah. Or see what appeals to you. Some type, like the type that's going to charge the battery on the back, they're good, efficient, flexible, but they need more space. You need more square feet of solar panels to get the same power. So the different types have, some need more space, more square inches of solar panels to produce the same power. Others have other problems. But none of them, I've noticed any big difference in them. In fact, per the building plans here, we built this up, and the first fall I looked at it and I got my buddy and we put that third center post down it. That's not part of the plans. But I felt it needed more support because of the wind we get out of the southeast west here. So, you know, and the plans also call for the wrong angle. I corrected that too. Didn't like it. The building inspector didn't care. We don't want to get into building inspectors, you know. They were good guys. They didn't give me any gruff. But then I did everything for the plans.
They came out, what, once to inspect it, or how many times?
3 times.
3 times.
They did check my holes before I fill them full of cement.
They checked the different stages of your construction?
Yeah, 3 different stages. One was the final, one was the wiring basically, and the other was the mounting, the hardware. So, and it's just like building anything else. You got to get a building permit, and you got to check it. Okay, what am I forgetting here?
Does it matter what size that you have to go with to have get a building? So if you only had a couple of panels, would you have to get a building permit? Or if you're doing a big array, you have to, where's the line?
I don't know where the line is. All I can tell you is there's 2 panels. That's it. But there's 2 panels. You'll see the triangle, the rectangle of my grid tie system. The 2 different panels that I just put there. I just moved them from there off of my porch because it was tearing up my porch. It was too much weight. And you can see them right here in this picture. Okay? So when they came out, they were already here. They didn't say boo about those 2 panels. They didn't ask me about them. They didn't anything. So from that, I'm to guess that, yeah, they don't care. You know, because I didn't get a building permit for these 2 panels that I already had up.
I think if you're going to go that large or to that scale, it actually benefits like to come out and make sure that everything's been done right.
Well, what do you mean, my grid tie system?
The whole workings. I mean, in your sense, if you went this large, it was better that you.
Oh yeah, I had. Well, you have to if you're doing grid tie anyway.
Yeah, Exactly.
Because you got to go through the power company, and they want your building permit number, and they're working very close to each other.
You said it was only about $100 for that?
I don't recall. The building permit's in the house. I'll be glad to go grab it. I know where it is. That's right. Yes.
Part of that may be whether it is a whole house system or you're just running a couple of batteries.
And that's all the 2 panels we're doing. But it runs.
Something to do if it's part of the structure of the house.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably it. So.
You could basically set up a system, charge up your batteries, run it through an inverter, and run whatever electronics you want in your home, and you won't have to need any permits or anything like that. But if you're tying into your grid or you're doing anything with your electric box, that's when you'll need.
Yeah, and also I just hung them on the porch as opposed to actually mounting them in the ground. So, yeah. And they're just mounted on the porch railing, so I just attached, although I did build an A-frame on it to be at the right angle. Yeah, I'm not sure how they look at all that stuff. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Sherman.